it was discovered that Odono was the lost princess. The king and queen listened intently, their hearts filled with both joy and sorrow, joy at finding their long-lost daughter, and sorrow for the years they had spent apart. Once upon a time, in the kingdom Emara in Africa, there lived a girl. She was not just any girl, she was the long-lost daughter of the king and queen of Emara Kingdom. Her name was Odono. However, Odono didn't know her true identity. She believed she was just an ordinary village girl, living with her loving but poor parents, Martha and Thomas. Martha and Thomas had found Odono as a baby, abandoned at the edge of the village. Seeing no one around, they took her in as their own, raising her with all the love and care they could muster. Little did they know, they were raising a princess. As Odono grew, she displayed a remarkable kindness and grace, traits befitting of royalty. She was loved by everyone in the village, who saw her as one of their own. Despite their struggles to make ends meet, Martha and Thomas did everything they could to provide for their beloved daughter. One fateful day, a messenger arrived in the village, bearing news from the capital. The king and queen had been searching for their missing daughter for years. Ever since she had disappeared during a terrible storm, the messenger announced a grand ball, inviting all the eligible maidens in the kingdom in the hopes of finding the lost princess. Excitement filled the village as preparations began for the ball. Odono watched from afar, longing to attend but knowing she could never afford the extravagant gowns and jewels required for such an event. Martha and Thomas, seeing their daughter's sadness, secretly vowed to find a way to make her dream come true. With determination in their hearts, Martha and Thomas set out to the neighboring villages, seeking odd jobs and selling whatever they could to gather enough money to buy Odono a dress fit for a princess. Meanwhile, Odono spent her days helping the villagers, unaware of the sacrifice her parents were making for her. Finally, the day of the ball arrived. Odono watched as the other girls in the village donned their finest attire and made their way to the castle. Her heart ached with longing, but she resigned herself to staying behind, knowing she had no chance of attending. As the sun began to set, Martha and Thomas returned home, their faces beaming with excitement. In their hands, they held a beautiful gown, shimmering with beads and lace. They presented it to Odono, who could hardly believe her eyes. With tears of joy streaming down her cheeks, Odono donned the gown and set off for the castle, her heart pounding with anticipation. The villagers cheered her on, their love and support propelling her forward. As Odono entered the grand ballroom, she was greeted by the astonished cast of the guests. She moved with grace and elegance, her beauty shining like a beacon in the sea of nobility. Suddenly the traditional priest sighted Odono, and with his extraordinary power, he revealed Odono as the lost princess. He asked her to step forward and started asking her questions. Lost as she knew nothing of her past or her true identity, unable to say much. In that moment, Martha and Thomas walked into the ballroom, their faces filled with determination. They approached O'Donnell, revealing the truth of her adoption and the love that had guided them every step of the way. It was discovered that O'Donnell was the lost princess. The king and queen listened intently, their hearts filled with both joy and sorrow. Joy at finding their long-lost daughter, and sorrow for the years they had spent apart. With tears in the eyes of the king and queen, they embraced O'Donnell, welcoming her home at last. The king and queen, upon knowing this, felt a stirring in their hearts. After all these years, they had finally found their daughter. From that day forward, O'Donnell took her rightful place as princess of the realm, but she never forgot the humble beginnings that had shaped her into the person she had become. She ruled with compassion and wisdom, always mindful of the love that had carried her through the darkest of times. And as for Martha and Thomas, they were honored by the king for their selfless act of love, forever remembered as the parents who had raised the princess from the depth of obscurity. In the end, it was their love that had truly crowned O'Donnell as the rightful heir to the throne.